Hello, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Let's see. Hey, David. Hey, Nero. Hope you both are doing well. Um, so I do feel a lot better compared to Thursday when I did the State of Play stream. However, my voice still is going to be a little bit hoarse, tiny bit, but I hope that's okay with you all. Um, I'm still surprised I knew Paranorma Site was announced. That was such a I was watching I wasn't planning on watching the direct or anything because I don't normally really care about those partner showcases. But when I saw the what's his name? The like the narrate not the narrator, but the I forget what that guy's name is. The guy in the cloak and the fedora. Isn't he like the game master or the game? It's like some kind of name like that. When I saw him at first in the trailer, I thought we were gonna get a native port for the Switch 2 for Paranorma Site, and I thought, oh, that's cool. They're gonna get a native port for Paranorma Site for the Switch 2, and then it showed all new footage, and then it took me a few seconds to kind of realize this is a new Paranorma Site. Oh my god! Like because I thought the way Square Enix buried the first game, stupidly, in my opinion, the way they just buried the first game without a lot of marketing and it's like barely anybody knew about it. I was convinced that Square had sent that game out to die and that would be the end of that, even though the game was really good. And I am very happy to see that they are doing a second one. I hope the same people that made the first game are involved again, especially the composer. I haven't really seen much direct evidence that the same people who made the Seven Mysteries of Hanjo are back for Mermaid's Curse. So I hope it's good. I'm excited to check it out this week. The most exciting thing for me in the Nintendo Direct was Kyoto Xanadu. Oh, that's right. I forgot they showed that. Really, it was mainly like the first 5 minutes where they showed that Orbitals game that looks really cool, the anime co-op looking game, and then Paranorma Site. And then beyond that, nothing really had my attention, and then they ended it with Todd Howard coming out and going, "Hey everyone, I'm Todd Howard." And I went, "Oh, fuck. What do you want? Why are you here at my Nintendo Direct? What are you doing here?" So, as the title as the title says for this stream is mainly going to be about the state of play that happened on last Thursday and just giving my general, not only my extended general thoughts on it, but also going through some of the more bigger highlights and some of the ones I wanted to talk about the most, because I don't have, I made like a private custom playlist of the stuff that I considered the highlights. Not necessarily because all these games are games that I'm like really really excited to play, but they're mixed up of mainly games I'm excited to play, plus games that I think, just for the purposes of it being a PlayStation showcase, makes sense to talk about things like Marathon and For Loop, the live service. Ironically, like two of the major low points in my opinion were the live services that Sony showed off that I could not. I'm like, like whatever. But I must say, so I've been thinking about it for the last few days, ever since that state of play happened, and this state of play might be the first time since the original PS5 reveal back in, I believe it was June of 2020. This might be the first time I have seen a PlayStation presentation that I felt like was worthy of it being called a showcase. Because beyond that original one back in June of 2020, the other three presentations that they have had this generation that have had the showcase moniker, I felt like have been very underwhelming. Where I felt like the game curation was just not it. It did not have enough first, second party content with the PlayStation Studio stuff. I felt like the pacing was really off in all three of them, especially the what was it? The one that was like 2021 where they like really backloaded everything and it was mainly just CG trailers with Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine and I mean they did have God of War Ragnarok in there and that looked really good. That game ended up being really good too. But this state of play that happened, this is the first time I have watched one of these PlayStation presentations in a very, very long time and thought to myself, if PlayStation had slapped the showcase label on this, I would have said that was very worthy of a showcase label. Because it just it was just banger. To me, it felt like just consistently delivering games that I really wanted to play, just from a personal standpoint. Lots of PlayStation published representation in it, which is just like I was stunned by the amount of games that they showed that was from their own either their own family of studios or coming from them in a second party capacity. And then just I felt like it was just all like almost all killer, no filler, just like constantly just going. And just when I thought we had gotten the peak of the state of play, like when they began with Kena Bridge of Spirits, or sorry, Kena, what's it called? Kena Scars of Kosmora, the sequel. I thought to myself, wow, they probably started with their best game right off the bat, and it's all just going to be downhill from here. And the fact that by the end of that state of play, I had to go back and like remind myself of things like, I had to remind myself of things like Rev Noir, like what you said, David. I had to remind myself of Ghost of not Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei Legends, stuff like that. That speaks to how many like the sheer volume of cool looking stuff was in this. And this presentation was so good that it reminded me a lot of PlayStation's glory E3 days. I'm talking about the PS4 era, where there were a few years during that era where they just came out swinging as like they like these very hungry, just ravenous dogs that were like, we have something to prove and we're gonna eat everybody else's lunch at E3 this year. I'm talking like E3 2013, E3 2015, E3 2016. I mean, this to me had that same energy where they just were like, bitch, we're PlayStation, boom, and just just knocked it out of the park. And I have to admit, I'm more than willing to call out PlayStation when they screw up and they don't meet my level of expectation. Especially for a company as storied as PlayStation, not only to just the general gaming industry, but my own history as a gamer. I think, they deserve a lot of criticism when they do something that they screw up with. But I also think they deserve a lot of credit when they do something that I am personally pleased with. And this is one of those times where I am more than willing to say, I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong about this state of play because I went into it going, it's probably not going to be all that good. I don't know why people are so excited for this one. It's about how this is it's like an early year state of play and those are almost never good and stuff like that. And it was just like, and then PlayStation came out and basically just bitch slapped me in the face and were like, bitch, do we have a show for you? We're gonna prove you wrong, Razorblade Mango, and just boom, just dropped the fucking hammer on me. And I have Rev Noir in my playlist, David. So I know I'll get to that in a while. this isn't going to be a very long stream, just because I have to be doing something at 2 o'clock my time today. But I will now transfer over to the camera. Hello, hello. Oh, let me get my. All right. So we're first gonna start out with my playlist that I've got loaded up right here, and I'm just gonna go in order of the games that I have in this playlist, just because I don't know. I wanted to start out with Kana, Scars of Kosmora first, just because they started with this, and to me this set the tone really, really well. It was a big surprise. It was it was almost like with this game, PlayStation wanted to make a statement where they go, "Hey, we know we've been fucking up lately, but this is finally the presentation where we have figured out what y'all want. We're going to present something that's more in line with our cultural identity as a console maker, as a brand." And rather than starting out their stupid ass presentation with like bear games or some shit like that, they go, Kana Scars of Kosmora. And what a tone setter this was. I think this game looks, I mean, already Kana Bridge of Spirits looked beautiful. Just really just almost unbelievably so because of Ember Lab at the time being a brand new studio. And I remember when Bridge of Spirits was first announced, I looked at it and I thought, wow, this looks insanely beautiful. But there was always that skepticism in the back of my mind where I thought to myself, you know, this is a new studio. I know they're known primarily for animation, but I just had a lot of healthy skepticism going into that game, despite how cool some of the footage looked. And that was a game that was a little awkward from a gameplay perspective. A little bit. I don't feel like they quite got the flow 100% right in that game. You could tell just from like the bones of it that it was more of a smaller budget title. But the animation quality in that game was just immaculate. Just it like there were times where I was playing it and just kind of looking around at the environment and thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe this is actually something that is like I'm playing it right now and it really does look this good. But what's so interesting too about Kana Bridge of Spirits was that I felt like right out of the gate they also did it felt like it had a really confident vision despite like the sheer emphasis on the animation quality. And then you have the gameplay, which I felt like was a much more challenging experience than I expected. And it had more things in it that you could do, especially with helping out the rot, that I felt like gave the game a lot more texture, a lot more personality to it. And it was a game, even with the more like the cutesy shit in it, like the rot. And it was a pretty dark game because it dealt a lot with death and tragedy. And it was you as the spirit guide healing these lost souls because of some, you know, tragic circumstances that they experience in their lives. So, despite the very colorful visuals and whatnot, it was a very, I would say, like emotionally mature game because I could expect some people you look at it on the surface and see these like cutesy little creatures, these cuddly little creatures running around. But there's a real dark undercurrent to Kana Bridge of Spirits that I really liked. And this game, just from what I can tell in this trailer, it seems to be continuing that. I wonder if the difficulty has been scaled back compared to Bridge of Spirits, or if they're going to have multiple more difficulty modes compared to it. But I think this game, I mean, even now that I've stepped away from the surprise of seeing it, I think this game, I mean, this is one of those games that I'm definitely going to be checking out day one. I'm a fan of the original one. I think everything I'm seeing in this trailer so far, just again, the animation looks amazing. I think hey, RJ Emerson, how's it going? I think the added gameplay elements, like the rideable wolf, um, the one thing I will say that if I really were to get my skeptical brain in there, my like healthy skepticism, is that I hope the added PlayStation influence or modern PlayStation influence doesn't make it so they expand the scope just for the sake of it. Because I felt like the scope in Bridge of Spirits was just enough to where it felt like they weren't biting off more than they could chew for a first time studio. And it was bigger than I expected too, but this seems to have more of an open world aspect to it, which I don't know if that's really necessary for Kana, but I have faith in this studio because I thought I kind of felt the same way about Bridge of Spirits, like I said, where I went in very skeptical. But and then also from what I remember, they had a same day review embargo. I think the minute the game went live for people to buy, I think is when the reviews went live as well. And that's normally never a good sign. But it turned out to be a really good game, and I don't know why Ember Lab didn't have more confidence in themselves, and hopefully with them, because this unlike Bridge of Spirits, this is going to be published by PlayStation, where PlayStation is going to be doing the marketing. PlayStation, I assume, is going to be doing, through their usual channels, the review embargo stuff, and hopefully this game is given like more of like a confidence, less skepticism, considering now Ember Lab is a proven studio, so I don't think them doing a same day review embargo would be a smart idea. But I think this game looks really really promising. Just I love this trailer. This is honestly like this might be the PlayStation published game I'm looking forward to the most this year now. I mean, before it was Wolverine, which even then, like with Wolverine, I'm more like, yeah, like I'll play it. It'll probably be fun, but I'm not really crazy about Insomniac these days. It's more like, okay, this is a chance for them to do something new and kind of get back into the swing of things more after Spider-Man 2, which I thought was really underwhelming. But Kena Scars of Kosmora is now like my most anticipated PlayStation game, PlayStation published game of the year. So that's and considering I didn't know it even existed about a week ago, that's a huge compliment from me. So next game we're going to be talking about very briefly is Ghost of Yotei Legends. Um, this is obviously very similarly to Ghost of Tsushima Legends. This is going to be the 4-player PvE co-op, like raid mode. And really the only thing I've got to say about this is that, I mean, I really liked Ghost of Tsushima Legends. I was very, very surprised by how good that was when I played it. And I remember playing it with a friend of mine, and I think the husband of another friend of mine, another friend of ours. And all three of us were having a really good time with Ghost of Tsushima Legends. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the squad back together, because I think only one of them has a PS5. I don't even know if they have Ghost of Yotei. So, and unlike Legends, I don't think this is going to be purchasable as a standalone thing right out of the gate. But we'll see. I think this looks really cool. I do have one concern about Legends though, this one. And it's the fact that the first time Ghost of Tsushima Legends, that didn't have any microtransactions in it. I was really, really surprised that there were no microtransactions in Ghost of Tsushima Legends. However, this is modern PlayStation we're talking about. And modern PlayStation loves to do stupid things. And unfortunately, I would not be surprised if this time around they were to shove in some microtransactions into Ghost of Yotei Legends, because truth be told, I think Ghost of Tsushima Legends is one of the better live service things that PlayStation has had. And it's a free mode. It's not even like a standalone thing, or it wasn't when it first came out. So, and I remember being very skeptical about it when it was first announced, because I think my first thought was, oh no, this is their way to try to pimp more money out of people who bought Ghost of Tsushima. But no, and I remember too in the PlayStation blog, Sucker Punch even made a point of saying that we are not going to be having any microtransactions in this. And I'll need to take a look at the PlayStation blog listing again for Ghost of Yotei Legends, but I don't think I saw it anywhere. That same braggadocious shit about them not having any microtransactions in Ghost of Yotei Legends. I think that would be a real shame if they did. I think that would really taint one of the things that I really love the most about Ghost of Yotei or Ghost of Tsushima Legends. But I'll try it. Even if there are microtransactions in it, I'm obviously not going to buy them, because fuck would I. But I still want to give this a shot. Hopefully I know people who have it. Maybe I'm trying to remember who else I know owns Ghost of Yotei. I can only think of one person right off the top of my head, and I don't know if he'd be down to play this, but we'll see. But let me look at the comments while this is still. Nero, Castlevania was the biggest surprise for me. That's coming up near the end of this playlist. But that was also a huge surprise as well. I agree. I thought that I knew we were going to get a new Castlevania game at some point, but I figured it was going to be more like how Lords of Shadows was, and not an actual 2D, like 2.5D Metroidvania and Castlevania kind of thing. Especially not developed by Evil Empire and Apex Twin. I think that's the other company that's called. But anyway, here's Saros. So, this is a game that I felt like hasn't really been given some of the best gameplay demonstrations at past presentations. I thought the gameplay showcase they did during the September State of Play was not particularly great, because to me it just looked more like a Returnal conversion mod. And then they had one at the Game Awards that I thought was better. And then this one I feel like has been the best demonstration of what makes Saros unique compared to Returnal. Even though this has a lot of obvious similarities between it and Returnal, I think it's doing enough, even besides the more permanent progression aspects to it, in order to try to make it, like I said in the stream, this sounds very condescending, but I mean it kind of like it is what it is kind of way. This is going to be more of a casual, friendly version of Returnal, because Returnal is not. I personally did not think Returnal was like extremely hard like some people did. But the thing that really I think the thing that well, not I think the obvious thing about Returnal that filters a lot of people out is the fact that there is no like real meaningful permanent progression. The only things that are permanent progression bits in Returnal are leveling up the weapons that you use, and even then you don't consistently get the same weapons each run. And then the powers that you get after beating certain bosses that let you access more biomes and new rooms that are in the past biomes that you can explore. So it seems like they have taken Returnal and just said, you know what? We're not going to make it as brutal. It's still going to be a challenge, but we're going to give you more like permanent progression. We're going to make it easier for you to go in back into the fight, get back to that enemy that killed you, get back to that biome so you're not. That was one of the things I really did not like about Returnal, was that instead of getting to choose between the different biomes right from the starting area, it has this weird thing where you can choose to either go into one of two starting points, and then if you wanted to get to the third biome at the end of that starting point, you would have to run through the first two in order to then hopefully stay alive long enough to get to an access point to the third biome. Which I think if you were just going for the story, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But considering I got the platinum trophy for Returnal, which like I don't know why I got the platinum trophy for Returnal. I did. I it was just, I don't know, it was something in my brain was just kept calling me back to Returnal. Even though it's a game that I have quite a few like big issues with, I think Returnal is probably the most unique game that PlayStation has released this generation. It's a game that I wish I liked more because there are so many things about it that I can really appreciate. And I really love that PlayStation so far have just they've kind of just left Housemarque alone to kind of do their own thing. Yeah, they've like influenced them maybe a little bit with adding more story to the game, whatnot, because there's more of a narrative element. This is probably their most narrative heavy game. And you know PlayStation loves their narrative shit. Gotta shove it in every aspect of whatever game, most of every aspect. Excuse me. But um hopefully the narrative isn't like as obnoxious as it could be, where it's just constantly stopping the action. Because that was one of the things that I thought was pretty cool about Returnal, is that Returnal had a very like, it had a narrative, but you had to really earn those bits of lore and those bits of narrative. You had to you had to go run through those levels again and again and again and again in order to get to that enemy that beat you the last time and get past it, and then get to the boss that might kick your ass that time, and then you have to go just keep going back again and again and again. And especially like that started to be a bit of a pain, because in order to get the platinum trophy in Returnal, you have to collect basically like everything. You have to unlock all of the holograph rooms. You have to find all of the lore bits. You have to find all of the scout tapes. I mean, it was a pain in the ass to do. It was a pain in the ass to do that. But for whatever reason, I did it. And I don't normally do games like platinum runs for games that are that grindy and that reliant on RNG, but for some reason, I guess it speaks to how good Returnal was in certain aspects of it, especially the combat. The combat in Returnal is fucking fantastic. I mean, Housemarque has always had great combat in their games, so it's obvious that Returnal does too. And I assume Saros is going to have really like cool, punchy feeling combat. I mean, look at this. This looks awesome. They're like typical bullet hell stuff, and I think it looks really good. This is like easily the best presentation of the game they've had so far. I'm looking forward to it. I think so, April 30th, I think they said. But But after all this time, I trust Housemarque. I think they're like easily one of the best purchases PlayStation has made this generation. It's like a no-brainer. Them and Bluepoint are like no-brainer acquisitions in my opinion. So I'm very happy to see that Housemarque is still kicking, and I hope Saros is really good. I want more games from PlayStation that isn't narrative. Yeah, I mean that would be nice. I'd be down for that. Oh, then I have a game for you then, Richard. It's called For Loop. A live service that you can play that probably does not have much narrative to it. No, in all seriousness, the only reason I included this here, and again, I consider this one of the low points of the presentation, but to me, I was hoping maybe this would convince me that there's more to it to For Loop than this, but I I don't know. There's something just I don't know about off, but there's something just like stale about this. I guess that's kind of the right word to it. I've seen a lot of people judging the frame rate. I'm not going to judge the frame rate too harshly because I don't even think this is coming out this year. I think it's coming out next year, but they're just putting this out there to kind of incentivize people to go sign up for the beta tests that they're doing on PC, which I did. I got an invite to do it. I haven't accepted the invite yet, but I'll probably check this game out. I don't know if there's like an NDA to it. I assume there's like an NDA, so I can't like make a video about it, but um yeah, I don't know. I'm not really digging like the art direction of this. It just again, it's like the purple shit that's like everywhere that a lot of live services are doing nowadays, where there's just like purple shit everywhere you look. Um it just like I don't know. There's again, it's just to me it just looks stale. And again, it's got this Helldivers 2 vibe to it, which it's like again outside of the robot and creature designs. Why would I leave Helldivers 2 to go to this? Like and then they have this like roguelike element to it, which like even though I'm, I'm a lot more open to roguelike stuff than I was previously. I don't know. I just and again, this is another case where I don't know when PlayStation got into bed with them on this, and I don't really know what PlayStation sees in this. And I think this is another one of these games that kind of reinforces my theory that PlayStation doesn't really have good instincts when it comes to live services. I mean, this and Horizon Hunters Gathering, even though I think I'd much rather play Horizon Hunters Gathering than this. But just most of the live services they have really like bankrolled or gotten into bed with this generation, just I don't know, they lack, for lack of a better term, they lack the sauce in my opinion. So I mean, you can wish list it now if you want. You can go join the closed beta if you want, the tech tests. Um yeah, I don't know. I don't really know anyone who's like all that excited about this. I don't think this state of play really changed people's minds. I don't think. I think more people are just kind of like like they look at it and they like it's not like offensively bad or anything. It's not like I don't think it looks as generic as something like Highguard or Concord, but it's still it just mm, it's like this kind of like the shrug and just like that's kind of really all I got to say about For Loop these days. Maybe I'll play the closed beta and actually enjoy it. I don't know. Maybe weirder things have happened, but I just don't. I don't know. I just with this one. Um. Are people even interested in For Loop? I think some people are. I don't think it's fair to say no one is interested in this. I think there are some people, but the vast majority of people I've seen look at this, they kind of either just go like, meh, or looks okay, but it's not something that I would buy. Because I assume this is going to be another one where PlayStation charges $40 for this, which, like, yeah, I don't know why. I $40. It's like, I don't know about that. I feel like people would get over it after a month. I mean, I don't know. It depends on, and this is also a new studio as well. I don't think Bad Robot Games has done anything else besides this. And I'm really surprised that they started their very first, like, this is their first time game, I believe, and it's a live service, and it's kind of like, guys, like I don't know, guys, like, can you just make a single player game that's kind of like this? Like, I'd be a little bit more receptive to it if it was a single player game, but as a live service, it's like, yeah. So I'll let the trailer run down and then take a sip of water. But I think I put Marathon after this as well. Reckless. Oh no, it's only a few seconds. But yeah, good luck to Bad Robot Games. Hopefully this won't be like such a giant disaster that it that it kills the whole studio off, because that seems to be where we're going with a lot of companies nowadays. Where it's like, if your live service doesn't hit within the first, like, I don't know, few months, few weeks of it coming out, it's like, buddy, you're done. Oh, I forgot. I put Galactic Racer before Marathon. I think I wanted to break up the two live services, but I don't have a whole lot to say about this one other than the fact that I think it looks pretty cool. And I am not a Star Wars guy anymore at all. Anytime I hear about Star Wars, I get like a ugh kind of feeling in my stomach because I'm just so sick of it. But if I were to break my rule and actually engage with anything Star Wars related besides obviously Star Wars that's going to be in Kingdom Hearts 4, I think this is one of the things that I would break my own rule for, because I actually think this looks pretty cool. And it's also made by former Burnout developers. And Burnout was one of my favorite racing series as a kid. And I've missed those like classic PS2 Burnout games. I really enjoyed those, especially Burnout Revenge. That's probably my favorite one of the series. But this looks a lot like Burnout, where it's showing off, it's focused a lot on crashes, a lot on destruction, and I think it looks pretty fun. Or maybe Fate of the Old Republic. That might be the other one that I like. Oh, it's got the pod racing too. Fate of the Old Republic could be pretty cool. The one that's coming from Casey Hudson. I might be interested in that. Oh no! Where the hell did I put Marathon? I guess I put Marathon later. Okay, so this is Marvel Tokon, obviously. I did a video talking about this game not that long ago, so I don't want to repeat things that I said in that video. But the gist of what I said was I played one of the closed betas for it, and I really liked everything about it except the advanced gameplay. And a lot of that had to do with this way overemphasis on auto combos and meter burn. And that really put me off of experimenting more with the game because there was no real way to turn those off and just play it like, where I had to manually input all of the combos. And I just grew like really frustrated with how easy it was to perform auto combos in the game. But I've heard from some people, I don't know how valid this is, but I've heard from some people that are in the FGC community that have played newer builds of the game that aren't publicly available to try yet. And they've said that ARC has made improvements from the beta. Like, it's much more difficult to activate combos, and they've given defensive capabilities a bigger buff. They've made assists a little bit like less what's the word that I heard? They've basically changed some of the ways that assists work, and that was also one of my biggest complaints from the beta, because I felt like it was just way too easy to just keep spamming assists and like just bouncing your opponent around for like 50 hit combos at a time, which I thought was just bullshit. And again, like I said in my video, it's one thing if I'm getting beaten up and think it's not fun. It's another thing entirely when I'm doing the beating and I'm still like, I still feeling like I didn't really deserve this. So, But it's coming out August 6th. There's obviously going to be a year one DLC pack. I think it comes with like 4 or 5 characters and a new stage. And I would need to play another beta again to really solidify whether I want to pick this up day one. I might just wait anyway, just in order to get it a little bit cheaper later on with the year one or year two passes in there. But I think the game, like I said, this is the one live service out of everything that PlayStation has been publishing so far this generation that's coming up that I think has the most potential. Because to me, this is a brilliant idea to do a Marvel fighting game in this like anime style. And I'm really surprised nobody thought of this sooner. Like, I'm really, really surprised that nobody thought to themselves, let's make an anime Marvel tag fighter. It's like, I don't know, to me it's like an idea that just prints money. But I guess it took PlayStation having a really good relationship with Marvel to really get this off the ground, and the fact that they invested a lot more into things like Evo and the FGC and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of potential here. They just really need to tone down the fucking auto combos and make defensive capabilities a lot better and kind of make tweaks to the tagging system. But I love like almost everything I've seen about this game. I love the art direction. I love the style. I love the comic book aesthetic to it. I really like a lot of the character inclusions so far. So I think that game's going to be hopefully really, really good. Now, here's Marathon, which I thought Marathon was going to be sooner in this playlist, but it's not. So here we are. Again, I made a video about this with Bungie where I talked about I don't think Bungie gets. I'm not going to give Bungie that much credit with fixing this because they almost had to get bullied into delaying it from September, the original September 2025 launch date, and delay it like 7 months in order to add in basic things like prox chat. And it's not because it's like Bungie, again, they got bit in the ass by their own hubris, and they had to go back and really pull their head out of their ass and do some fixes. And again, like now it looks visually, I think it looks much better. Before I couldn't talk about, I don't think Bungie's really going to give a shit. Like, I doubt anyone from Bungie is going to see this, but I got into one of the tech tests for this game, and I didn't really like it. The game's obviously not for me. I'm not really big on extraction shooters anyway. But one of the things I did not really like about this game was, I guess, like how I don't know, like how quickly you could like get fucked over in this and die. And I guess like that's kind of the vibe that they're going for with this, where they want a much more like hardcore PvP experience. It's just that the way they're kind of making this look in the trailer with like being all like flashy combat and shit, that was not my experience with that game from what I played in the closed tech test. Because my experience with it was you meet one NPC or you meet one other player and basically like you're screwed. Like if you don't have a good team to back you up, I found it to be like a miserable experience to play. And sometimes even having a good team is not really enough. But again, it kind of makes me sad that this is not either like I would consider getting this if it was like a strictly like PvE co-op game, because I really like the art direction, I really like the aesthetic this game has. I really like the sound design. I really like what I've heard of the voice actors doing their thing. But PvP VE in like an extraction shooter environment, I don't know. If this is more like Helldivers 2, where there are certain things that you can get that are permanent progression, but you do have to extract in order to complete certain things, that I'd be okay with. But the PvP aspect to it, it's like, yeah, that's I'm out. like I'm out. God bless to anyone who wants to play it. I still think the game is going to be a pretty like good success in the short term when it comes out. I think people saying that it's going to be like Concord 2 are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about, because this game is. I think Marathon's going to do really well at launch, but long term, that's where I have more questions, because that's Bungie, and Bungie have a proven track record of rocky long-term support for their live services. I mean, anyone that's a Destiny fan, they could tell you what goes on with Bungie shenanigans when it comes to Destiny. Now this is Control Resonant, which I'll be honest, I am somebody who does not really, with like a few exceptions, I am not a fan of Remedy. I don't like Alan Wake. I didn't click with Control. I thought, what was that one game they did for Xbox? The like Quantum Break. I thought that game sucked. Um, I do like Max Payne though. I like Max Payne 1 and 2. I think those games are cool, and I'm glad they're doing a remake of them with Rockstar. I think those games are going to be pretty sick. But I didn't really have Control Resonant on my radar, because again, I'm not a fan of Remedy, so it's like, eh. But then this gameplay trailer was shown, and I think this game looks cool as shit. I really like this like gravity rush kind of shit, where you're sticking to different sides of the building, manipulating gravity. I like the Devil May Cry stuff that it's doing. I have no idea what's going on as far as the story, just because, like I it's like I never played beyond maybe like the first few hours of Control, just because it never really clicked for me. But I think this game looks really cool. I think just if they can get the blend right of this kind of like open-ish world, Gravity Rush, Devil May Cry kind of vibe that it's got going for it, and the fact that this is very different compared to Control. Like Control is more of a third-person shooter in a sense, and then you have this, and it's like a character action game kind of thing, which is a very big departure from what the first Control was. I think that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. Plus, like the boss designs and the bosses in this game look fun. I like the way this thing looks. There's another boss that comes later that's like a ballerina that I think looks cool. There was like one brief look at this like half lady head boss in the opening little like splices of gameplay before this started that I think looks cool from an art standpoint. So I don't know if I'm gonna play this day one, but this is the rare Remedy game where I am actually curious to check this out. And hopefully I will enjoy it because this gameplay seems to be kind of more my bag compared to their past stuff. Um so Rich said PlayStation needs to get their fucking act together or they're going to lose their audience. They're losing me already. I hate to say it, Richard, but like modern PlayStation does not care about what you and I want. Like it's just I really don't think they care. It does does make me sad. I think with the state of play though, if they continue to make more things like Kana Scars of Kosmora, if they get more into bed with things like that, I think they'd be on a better trajectory than kind of where they are now with obsessing over this live service shit. But I now that I've seen this state of play and just like how focused on single player a lot of it was, now I know why they separated the Hunter's Gathering announcement from this, because I think putting Hunter's Gathering in this would have just, I think it would have left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. So what's so strange is like they clearly want to do these live services things, but they like it's like they don't want to, it's like they know how unpopular they are with a certain like big subset of the audience. So it's just, it's a very like weird conundrum that they have on their hands. They're funding other projects instead of making them in house. I mean, I don't really care if they if it's like first person, or sorry, if it's like first party or second party. I really don't care. Like the Ember Lab thing, I don't care that PlayStation doesn't own them. I don't care that that's not a first party game. I just care that PlayStation funds creative, interesting single player projects. It could come from their own studios, it could come from outside sources. I could not give a shit. I really don't care. You know what? I really don't care if PlayStation wants to fund outside live services in some respects, because I'd rather they do that than have their first party teams making live services. At least the ones that primarily do single player stuff. Like I think Guerrilla making like delaying Horizon 3 in order to do Hunter's Gathering is such a big mistake on their part, but I guess it's something they want to do, so I don't know. Fuck it, we'll see how that goes for them. But I don't have a really good feeling about Hunter's Gathering, and I'll get to that in more detail some other time. But yeah, I think Control Resonant looks really cool. I wish Sony, if I would say one thing about their single player games, is like I wish they would stop focusing so much on narrative and start making more like single player games in different genres, that it's like you don't really need a big emotional narrative to kind of get it off the ground and make it work. Like I wish Sony would work more with the studio behind what's that studio's name, behind Humanity and Tetris Effect and Luminous Arise. I wish they would help them fund a game, make it under the PlayStation Studios umbrella. I kind of hope they take Kana Scars of Kosmora gives me a little bit more hope that they're going to take a look at some of the studios that were successful during the early PS5 days and say to them, you know, we were so impressed with your impact on PlayStation. Why don't we fund your next game and kind of give you help in that respects and like help foster these relationships? Because I think I said this when I was talking a long time ago when I was talking about smart, you know, acquisitions for PlayStation that would actually make sense. Ember Lab was one of those studios that I thought of, that I went, you know what? If Ember Lab didn't want to self-publish anymore and actually wanted to get like more consistent support from a big publisher, I think them and PlayStation would make a really good pairing. And I think Scars of Kosmora is going to be like the big major tests to my opinion on that. So now we're gonna begin the what I call the Konami run. Hold on. They should be having them finish Horizon 3 before focusing on the live service. Yeah, that I definitely agree with. Um, Actually, let me be right back. I'm just gonna go grab some more water. Be right back, everyone. Give me a Alrighty, I'm back, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I hope they end the story with 3. I don't want more Horizon. No, I agree with that. I want Gorilla to move on to something different. So here's where I'll call the Konami block, where this is how do I want to say this? So of all the Japanese publishers that I expected to kind of go to PlayStation and be like, here's our giant list of announcements that we have today, and then PlayStation to do something like this, where they basically just give them a whole, like, I think a good quarter, almost like a quarter of the state of play was dedicated to Konami. And um I mean, I gotta say, like, I'm somebody who, there was a time where I was just like done with Konami, where I was just so like, I was so burned by them. I was so just like, I fucking hate them. They're so disrespectful. How dare they get rid of PT? How dare they treat Kojima like this? And I must say, like, I thought that was like the end for Konami as a game publisher and a game maker, where that all they were gonna do is just make like really shitty pachinko machines and just focus on like insurance and fitness gyms in Japan and stuff like that. But I don't know who at Konami went to the board and were like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? We need to actually like make games again. Like, what is this shit? What are you doing?" Because in my opinion, over these like last few years, I feel like Konami has really gotten their act together. I mean, with like, doing more things with Metal Gear Solid, bring Silent Hill back in like a major way, getting the ball rolling on bringing Castlevania back, introducing some new IPs like this, like Darwin's Paradox and Rev Noir, another game we'll talk about later. But Darwin's Paradox, from when I saw it for the first time, I didn't really think much about it because I kind of just looked at it and was like, whatever. It's like some stupid Squid Game or Octopus game, whatever. But the more I looked at it after that first debut in this whatever state of play it was in for the first time, the more I liked the look of it because it looks like a really goofy version of Playdead's Inside. And if you never played Inside, it comes from the team behind Limbo, and it's very similar to Limbo, where it's a lot of like puzzle stealth kind of stuff where you're going through these like really oppressive environments and trying not to get killed. And I think this game looks like an interesting blend of like Oddworld and Inside. And I played the demo for this as well, and I quite liked it. I don't know if I'm going to get it day one. I think it's only like $25 though, which that's enticing. It's like okay, it's only $25. I had a good time with the demo. I thought it was fun. Thought it was really goofy, like them adding like the Metal Gear stuff to it. I think they said it's not gonna be, the Metal Gear stuff is not gonna be in the main game, but I felt like the gameplay actually felt really good. I felt like anytime I died, it was my own fault and not something that went wrong with the game itself. I like the stealth elements to it. I like the world that it is. It's just such like it's such a weird game, but I dig it. I think it's charming. I think that's the major word that I would use to describe Darwin's Paradox, especially after playing it. I think it's charming. And I like that it's actually, I think it's like beautifully animated as well. I think the visual like cartoonish style of it is really cool as well. I know a lot of people are making fun of this game being like the oddball out when it comes to the Konami block that was in the state of play, but to me, like this is one of my like personal favorite things that was shown at the state of play. I'm actually like kind of looking forward to this now. I think it looks really neat. I think it plays pretty well. Unfortunately, the demo on by default is set to like the frame rate or the resolution mode. So I was playing it and I went like, oh shit, this is gonna be locked at 30 because it just has that gross like 30 frames Unreal Engine thing to it. And then I went into the settings and then I saw performance mode. I went, oh thank God, it's got a performance mode. So I flipped that on instead. But if you have I think the demo is available on everywhere and not just PS5. So if you want to give this a try, it's available to try, I believe, on like PC, Xbox, and Switch too, I believe. But I dug it. I thought it was charming, and I'm kind of looking forward to checking the full thing out. Um, I somewhere that Konami used to have Yakuza connections. Oh, I heard somewhere that Konami used to have Yakuza connections. I don't know how true that is though. It wouldn't shock me, to be honest, considering the Yakuza's prevalence in Japan, especially back then. But it might explain the pachinko machine thing. Yeah, that I don't know, they just had this weird obsession with like gotcha games and gambling for like a few years there, and was just, again, it really seemed to be like, well, that's the end of Konami as a games publisher. That's a wrap on that. That's done. But I'm personally glad they've come back. I to my great surprise, I really liked the Silent Hill 2 remake from Bloober. I liked Silent Hill F. I'm looking forward to this Darwin's Paradox. I'm looking forward to the next game on this list, which is Castlevania Belmont's Curse, which I think is, out of the Konami block, this was the most exciting announcement for me and one of like the big highlights for me of this state of play, because I really like Evil Empire. I've never played Dead Cells. I'll probably have to play Dead Cells at some point, but I know Motion Twin were the original developers of Dead Cells, and then Evil Empire was their like spin-off team that did all of the DLC for Dead Cells, and then Evil Empire was contracted by Ubisoft to make Rogue Prince of Persia, which I thought was a surprisingly good game. I liked it quite a bit. So them to come back together and work on the first like major mainline Castlevania game in many years, it's like kind of like a match made in heaven, in my opinion. I mean, I've seen some people kind of not be crazy about the art style and are lamenting it's not more like the Symphony of the Night pixel art kind of stuff, but I really don't care. I think this game looks beautiful. I love the like gothic colorful aesthetic that this has. It looks a lot like the anime that I really love, the original series. So I am really looking forward to this. This is probably going to be a day one for me. Um, just support Konami as well. That like I really want them to make more things like this. I want them to bring back Castlevania more because it's like I'm not like a huge Castlevania fan, but it's an important series in the history of video games. It has a lot of heritage. I mean, look, it and Metroid invented like a subgenre. That's like that's how influential like part of its name is in a genre for something. So it's a highly influential series, highly important. So for Konami to finally bring it back and give it to some developers that I think are more than up to the task and more than worthy of the task, in my opinion, I think that's a great thing. I'll have to play Dead Cells at some point, but I've heard nothing but great things about it. But um, we shall see. And I think this looks great. I mean, just look at this; it looks so cool. But let me read some of the comments. Reminds me of the octopus from Finding Dory and Peter Pan 2. I don't remember that at all. How big is the Yakuza in Japan? They used to be a lot bigger, like a number of years ago. They're a less so now, but they're still a pretty like major force in the underworld in Japan. I want more Bomberman from them. You got Bomberman. You got that collection that they announced at the direct, I believe. I think they're on their way out because of new laws, at least from what I heard. I could be wrong. No, you're right, Nero. That Japan has a lot of these like new laws that crack down on the Yakuza. Um, but in order to prep for Castlevania, I do recommend Rogue Prince of Persia, which was Evil Empire's last game. Uh, it's I if I have like one concern about this game, I hope it's not a roguelike. I hope it's just a straightforward Metroidvania, just, the kind of like typical Metroidvania progression, not roguelike stuff. Because, like, I appreciate that that's kind of like their thing, but I'd rather they just, play Bloodstained. I did play Bloodstained. It's just, I didn't really get into Bloodstained Ritual of the Night all that much. Like, I thought it was fine, but I kind of lost interest in it about like a couple hours in, and I tried. I tried to get into it, but it just, eh. I mean, to be fair, like I'm not even really crazy about the original Castlevania games. Like, but then again, I played them at a much younger age than I am now, so maybe I'd like them more now. Maybe I should give them a try someday. Um, but that's Castlevania Belmont's Curse. I think it looks really promising. I'm looking forward to it. This is again like another, to me, like this is like an obvious thing combining Evil Empire and Motion Twin and Konami to make a Castlevania game. It's like a dream project. So makes a lot of sense to me, and I hope it's good. So here's Silent Hill Townfall. So um I heard the only bad one is Castlevania 2. I wouldn't know, Richard. But I think Townfall looks promising. I'm not like really hyped to play this one like I was Silent Hill F, but I think as far as the perspective change where it's going to be a first person game, and again it's not taking place in Silent Hill, it's like a different American, I assume that's an American town. Um I think there's a lot of promise in this one. I've never heard of this developer called Screenburn. I think they were called a different name called No Code a while back. And I've never played any of their past games, so I don't know if Konami came to them with an idea for Castlevania or if they went to Konami and pitched something to them. I don't know. But I think this, I mean, it is Castlevania. It is Silent Hill, so it has my attention automatically just because it's Silent Hill. And I think Konami have been on a really good run with Silent Hill so far, where it's, Silent Hill 2 remake, which was a great surprise to me. I like Silent Hill F, and hopefully this one will be good too. I think it definitely has some of the creepy imagery that I associate with Silent Hill. Seems to be a game that's about like maybe drug dependency or maybe like something like that, or like a hospital because he's got the IV fluid sticky in his system, and you have like imagery like needles and stuff that are consistent. I don't know what this thing is supposed to be. Um, I like that gun. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about Townfall, but I think it looks cool, looks promising. I'm not crazy about Annapurna being involved because I don't really like that nepo baby Megan Ellison being in the picture, but it is what it is. Now, this game, Rev Noir, this was basically like Konami coming out and being like, "Hey, we used to do JRPGs as well, so here you go." And I need to see more of this because this, like, there's some things in this initial trailer that I like that I think grab my attention as far as the imagery and the tone that it's going for in some cases. But then it gets to some of the more generic cutesy anime shit that I don't really vibe with or don't really have much interest in. If the full game was more like this opening bit where it's much darker, I'd be more into it. But I'm willing to, I mean, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it because I am curious about it. But I hope this is not a case where, because I've heard this line before from these developers that make these like JRPGs where they say that we love JRPGs, we grew up with them, and then you play the game that they made as their tribute to JRPGs, and it just comes across as so just bland and derivative, and it's like, oh god, I've seen all of these tropes, but they're not done anywhere like interestingly or put like Expedition 33 for me is an example of a team taking classic JRPG tropes, but using them in a way that is surprising and fun. Not exactly innovative, but they're given like a really fun new coat of paint. And they feel a lot like newer when in the context of something like the world of Expedition 33, and Lumiere and stuff like that. I like this key art as well. I think this key art is really cool. But I can't get into these anime style games. I mean, that's fair enough. That's probably why I never really played what is it called? Tales, the Tales series. Because I look at it and I just think to myself, I don't know, generic anime shit. I don't know. It's not that I have anything against anime. Like, there's lots of anime, but as far as games go, I don't know. I look at Tales and I just nothing about it really grabs me, unfortunately. And here we have, in my opinion, one of the biggest surprises of the entire presentation, which to me, like, this thing's existence feels like a no-brainer. But the fact that it's taken this long to get a like full-on third-person action shooter John Wick game, it's like, holy shit, it's about time, dude. Anime style games are hard to get into. Xenoblade is my exception. Even Xenoblade, like I mean, with respect to Yoko Shimomura during doing part of the music for the first game, and it's great music, but I've never really gotten into like Xenoblade all that much. I wish we had seen more gameplay for John Wick though. I think I need to see more besides the finishers that they're clearly showing the finishers at the end of a fight at the end of this trailer. But I mean, as far as like the tone, I think the character model of Keanu Reeves looks great. It's got that brutality that I associate with John Wick. I really like the music that they played. I think that I'm excited as fuck to play this. I mean, you guys heard me on the stream. I was fucking losing it. Like I was ecstatic when I saw this. This to me was probably like the most exciting thing at the state of play for me. Saber Interactive, like they have a little bit of like a hit or miss history with movie license games, but I like that they're directly in like Chad Stahelski is directly involved. Keanu Reeves is obviously directly involved. You have Lionsgate there as like creative consultants, so I think Saber Interactive. It depends on which team they're doing for this as well, because they have a lot of teams under their umbrella. So hopefully they get like one of the best teams there to work on this, because this is a game that like absolutely needs like a top tier team that understands good combat design, good combat flow, punchy impact, brutality, that kind of stuff. Like I love like all of this that they showed with the finishers. I was like, yes, this is what I like. That is what I'm looking for. This shit looks awesome. Like I was so happy to see that. That looked fucking dope. Like I can't wait. I can't wait to see more of this. So cool. The thing is, the Tales of series is known for deconstructing anime tropes. Oh, okay. So I never knew that. So that might mean I'd be more interested in Hero. Mario must have cried seeing this. I don't think he cried. I mean, he's obviously excited, but I don't think he cried when he saw it. There will be a collector's edition for it. Yeah, maybe. They could come with like a coin from one of the movies or something. One of the handguns that John uses. Yeah, or a gun. So this game, this is the God of War 2.5D Metroidvania that we have known about for a long time. Probably like a good year now we've known about this. Just from like rumors. And I gotta say, I thought it was a genius move to shadow drop this at the end of the state of play. Like they definitely saved like to me like one of the more like high impact moments for last. And it was so like, again, whoever decided that this should be shadow dropped, I thought was like a brilliant idea, because it's like it doesn't even give people like time to like come to their senses and realize like, oh, maybe I, what's my budget look like or something like that. It's like, nope, new God of War game out, 2D side scroller, boom, getting it right now, $30. I mean, that's kind of like how I did it, where I looked at this and I was like, oh yeah, there we go, $30, I'll do it. like yeah. I've put about like 4 hours into this as well, and I like it so far. I think it's a good game. I don't think it's the best like Metroidvania that I've ever played. I think some aspects of it are not very good. Like I don't really like the writing. I think it's very just bland. I was surprised that I was surprised that it was coming from the same team that wrote God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. But playing this, I was just like, oh man, like this writing just this writing is just not very good. And then a lot of the voice acting is not great either, outside of TC Carson and the person who voices young Kratos. I think a lot of the voice acting is not very good. It's actually pretty bad in some areas, surprisingly, given that this is like a PlayStation product and they normally have really good voice acting in their stuff. Um Outside of that, I like the combat in this game. I think the exploration, it's a lot bigger than I expected, where it's got like a pretty like large scope. I know it's a Metroidvania, but I was really surprised by how many optional areas there were and how many optional objectives there are. And I think there's some contention around the art direction of this game where some people think it looks cheap. And it's like, why is it costing $30? It looks like this. I don't get that sentiment at all. I think this game looks really nice. I think it looks like a really advanced, and I say this as a compliment, I think it looks like a really advanced Game Boy and SP game. So, and I have a lot of nostalgia for the Game Boy SP, the Game Boy Advance SP. So I'm very like, I'm very nostalgic to like for like this kind of look for a game. I think more people wanted it to look like a pixel art kind of thing, like Blasphemous or stuff like that. But this has more like that Game Boy SP look to it that I really, really love. I'm very nostalgic for back in the day. Like the early 2000s kind of look. So like the fact that I'm like actively looking forward to continuing to play this game, I think says a lot about the fact that I am enjoying it. But let's see. You have to unlock. Yeah, you have to unlock the co-op, which I think is a little. I think that's a misstep. I think the co-op should be available right out of the gate. But I guess I can understand why they did it as like a reward. But they have it listed on the PlayStation Store as a 2-player game, and you can't play it 2-player right out of the gate, which I think sucks. Especially if you and somebody else, if you bought this with the intention of playing co-op with somebody in your home. I do think that's pretty shitty of them not to have it right out of the gate. Keep in mind that some tales of games are better than others. Yeah. Creator hates this. I could give a fuck what David Jaffe thinks. Unfortunately, Paranormal Sight to me takes priority for this month. No, yeah, I over God of War. No, I understand. Like, if this wasn't a shadow drop, and like Paranormal Sight was the only thing, like I would just be like Paranormal Sight and Resident Evil. Those are like my priorities. But this is like the first God of War game in a few years. It's like, it's what I appreciate about this is that they're doing it in this style that I have wanted PlayStation to like try new things like this. I want them to be more experimental like this, doing more things like this, even if they're not great. Because I don't think Sons of Sparta is great per se. I think it's good, but I want them to make more things like this, try new things like this. This has always been my main problem for like the last generation and change, that I feel like PlayStation just keeps making the same fucking sterile thing like over and over and over again. It's always like the same, very like story driven, semi open world or open world, third person over the shoulder kind of thing. And that's why I'm like delighted, despite like I may not like love all of their stuff that they do that's outside of that wheelhouse, but like Returnal, I'm not like a huge fan of Returnal, but I appreciate things like Returnal. I appreciate things like this, like Sons of Sparta. I appreciate Astrobot in particular because it's so different from what they usually do. So I want them to keep experimenting like this. I want them to keep partnering with outside studios to make things like this. I want them to accept more pitches to work with their IPs or work on like a dormant IP or something and give it a style that's like this, or game, or different style of gameplay and structure than it's in the past. Puppeteer, can't forget that one. I'd love to see a new Puppeteer. Unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it'd be nice. But I wonder what Sony's mindset was behind accepting, because from the story goes that Mega Cat were the ones that approached Sony, like pitched them this game, and Sony were receptive to it. And I wonder, because PlayStation obviously is thinking about like money first and foremost when it comes to this kind of shit. So I wonder what PlayStation's expectations are like. I wonder what the motivation behind accepting MegaCat's pitch was. Because I don't think they're going to make a profit on this game. Like, I don't think they're really going to make a profit on this game. I don't know how much it will cost to make. But because PlayStation have unfortunately trained a lot of their audience to not care about games that aren't the typical lavish AAA single player over the shoulder third person action semi open world kind of thing. So I wonder like what that contingent of people like thinks when they look at something like this. They look at what is God of War, the 2D, what is this 2D shit? 2D is lame. I didn't realize it was like the 80s or the 90s. This is lame. And I've seen some of those comments, like where they're like, "What is it? Just so lame." So I feel like they could have pitched us something else, but turned it into God of War. That's not. I mean, if you believe what MegaCat says, that's not the case because MegaCat were the ones that said one of our biggest wish, like pie in the sky wish lists to work on a game for our tiny little company is God of War. And they apparently, after working on so many games for all these years, they were like, all right, we're finally going to make the big pitch. And they pitched to Sony God of War, and then I guess they were receptive to it. So, I mean, I believe MegaCat in this case, because it's such like a strange idea. But to me, it's something that interests me because it's just different. So I want them to make more things like this. I want them to. I actually would be fine with them taking other franchises that they have and turning them into like 2D Metroidvanias or like other genres, stuff like that. Like we need more. PlayStation needs more genre diversity. I've said this for years. I'm not going to get into that whole rant again, but they need more genre diversity. And like this is thankfully like a good sign that they are willing to embrace more genre diversity. Now, the final reveal, or not the final reveal for the state of play, but like the final big one was this God of War Trilogy Remake. So I I'm probably more mixed on this than some people are. Because I need to know what the I need to know what they're going to do with this first. Because these days like remake can mean anything. Because you have remakes that are like Final Fantasy VII remake and it's like totally different story-wise. Like huge deviations from the source material. You have Resident Evil 4 remake, Resident Evil 2 remake. That's like kind of the same story, but got some differences. Then you have other things like Crash Insane Trilogy, which they called a remake, but it's like the same stuff, same structure as the original Crash games. You have Demon Souls remake. It's the same, almost like a 1-to-1, besides the downgrade, in my opinion, of an art direction and music. You have Shadow of the Colossus remake, which it's like the same thing except the graphics are different and the controls are a little bit better, smoother. But so I need to know where does this exactly land on the remake spectrum? Because I don't feel like there's any consistent idea of what a remake is in this industry. If this is a remake in the sense that all they're going to do is take the original games with the same combat, the same camera angles, the same structure, and just add a nice fancy new coat of paint on it, and maybe add some new voice lines for TC Carson, and improve some of the levels, like getting out of Hades in the original game sucks. That part is awful. I mean, get rid of that. That like you could change that. Keep everything. Keep how gory it is. Keep the nudity. Keep all of that. Keep the dialogue. You can even add dialogue. I'm fine with that if it's TC Carson. But that if they're doing that, that I'm okay with. I'm fine with that. What I would not be happy with is them taking the original 3 God of War games, a trilogy that I love dearly, and giving them the 2018 Ragnarok structure and gameplay. Like that would suck. And then removing all of the nudity, dumbing down the dialogue, dumbing down the violence, making Kratos more sympathetic. I mean, it's like I can see like two sides of this where, but my gut is telling me they're going to go more for the latter option. And by the latter, I'm referring to getting like smoothing out Kratos's more rough edges, toning down like the violence against like innocent people, especially women, getting rid of the nudity, adding new scenes to humanize Kratos and make him more sympathetic, more in line with the Norse mythology games. Connecting these games back in some way to the Norse mythology games. Like I can see PlayStation's like boardroom mindset in my head. Because there are parts in that original trilogy that are really like dark and disturbing, where Kratos just like murders scores of innocent people and does not give a shit. Like there's one part where I think he grabs this old woman's face and just like slams it into a wall, and her head just like splits open. It's like brutal, like the amount of stuff that the old Kratos does. There's a part in God of War 3 where he takes Poseidon's sex. It's basically Poseidon's sex slave, who has like her tits out in her dress, and just basically uses her as a meat like a meat shield to hold like a lever down, so that her like getting crushed in this lever and killed will allow a door to open up in order for him to escape Poseidon's chamber and get out. You have things like that people would look at today and say things like that's deeply problematic and that's deeply misogynist, and it's like that's the point. Like Kratos is a monster. Kratos is a psychopath. I'll say this. I'm a little bit less leery about them doing that to God of War 3 because God of War 3 is in its original state is readily available on PS5. You can go play God of War 3 in like the best format it ever is right now on the PS5. That remaster is excellent. It like runs extremely well. It plays extremely well. Fantastic remaster. What I am much less accepting of is them doing this approach with God of War 1 and 2, because God of War 1 and 2 are not easily available to download and play in like the best possible format on PS5. It's the same thing that I said about the Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls remakes versus something like Resident Evil 4 remake. Because Resident Evil 4 remake, you can very easily access the original version of Resident Evil 4 on multiple different consoles. Very easy. Capcom have done a great job of that. But Demon Souls and Shadow of the Colossus, especially Demon Souls, are not. Like those original visions of the games with their original art directions intact are not easily available to find. You have to basically go to like an emulator to get those. Like if you don't have a PS3 or like you want to subscribe to PlayStation's stupid ass streaming service to get those games, if they're even available. Which I don't think Demon Souls is even available on that. But they'll probably take down the current remaster of 3 after they release this. I don't think so. I don't think they'll go that far. Because God of War, like the original games are still very popular on their service. I think God of War 1 and 2 are like the number one games that are on their streaming service, and God of War 3, the remaster, I think still does well for them. So they'd be really stupid. They didn't. I mean, to be fair though, what is it? Sega removed the original version of Yakuza 3 when Kiwami 3 came out as a standalone purchase, was I thought was incredibly stupid, which I thought was like such an unnecessary thing. But I don't know what's going on with Sega when it comes to Yakuza right now. I mean, for the record, I never bought Kiwami 3. Like, I was excited to play it, but just all the things I've heard and seen about it, I'm just kind of like, I'll pass. Like, I'll pass for now. I'm good. But yeah, that was God of War 3 or God of War Trilogy Remake, which I know a lot of people are really excited about this. I'm much more skeptical about this remake trilogy, but what does give me hope about them not taking these games and putting them in the 2018 and Ragnarok formats is that if they want to release all three games as a single bundle together, they can't do that. Like, they're going to have to go the route where those games remain intact the way they are, just given a graphical sheen. And of course, the nudity, they're probably going to censor the nudity as well, because it's just PlayStation does. But if they're going to release them separately, though, I think they're going to go the 2018 Ragnarok route. But if they do bundle them together as like a trilogy pack, I don't think they're going to have the time to really like, because that's a massive undertaking to like take all three of those games and then basically like convert them into the how they are in 2018 in Ragnarok. So I hope it's really good. I hope it's more like the former scenario I described, where it's just the original games but given a new coat of paint. I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually think God of War 3 still looks really amazing. I think God of War 3 holds up really, really well. I think the original two games hold up really, really well as far as graphics and art direction. They look amazing, even today, especially God of War 2. I think God of War 2 is sublime. That's my favorite game in the series. But I mean, I'm happy TC Carson is back as Kratos. Like, I love Christopher Judge as Kratos, but TC Carson, like, he just does like the primal guttural screams of anger that I know from Kratos much better than Christopher Judge does. Like, no offense to Christopher Judge, but he ain't no TC Carson when it comes to those like roars of anger that Kratos does in those old games. So anywho, that's gonna be it for me today. Unless there are any other questions y'all want me to ask, I do have to get going in a little bit. But I was very pleased with the state of play. Very, very, very pleased with that. I thought it was paced extremely well. I thought Sony's curation of games was mostly superb. PlayStation got the message on like beginning strong, ending strong, having a strong middle, having a strong like variety of games peppered throughout this presentation as well. You know what's interesting too is that I don't know how much credit I want to give Hideaki Nishino, but like ever since he became president of PlayStation, like the CEO of PlayStation, we have had 3 state of plays so far that have been very like either like a full on emphasis on Japanese games or like a slight preference to them. Especially with the way they brought in Konami. Excuse me. And basically gave them like rolled out the red carpet for them. And we're like, here you go. Konami, spend like 15 minutes talking about whatever you want. You're like barrage of announcements. And I thought that was a great idea. I mean, it could have gone wrong if Konami didn't have the announcements to support a spotlight like that. But I felt like they did. So, I mean, I didn't get into the Master Collection 2 for Metal Gear, but all I gotta say is like Metal Gear 3 or Metal Gear 4 Finally free, baby. Take some water. So, anyway, that's all I got to say about the state of play. Thank you, everyone, for coming to watch. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nero. Thank you, RJ Emerson. And thank you, Richard. So, that's going to be it for me today. This will probably be the video for the week as well. So if you haven't watched it yet and you see this in your feed, just come on by and give this a watch. I'll probably release this as the video for the week instead of the usual Thursday video, just until my voice improves. And that'll be it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go drink some tea. And thank you to everyone who came by. And I'll catch you all later. Have a good one. See ya.